I'm representing the Diploma team today. We are called Material Reuse. We are the unit which organises Material Arcade. And our contribution to the Climate Week is this piece of design, which is a lathed code track. Now, this has been made purely with the scraps from the workshop of Bedford Square Workshops and Hope Park. We would like to encourage the entire school community before buying virgin materials to instead look at the bins around the school and Hope Park, because it will save you money. You won't need to buy new virgin material. And yeah, we would like to introduce this piece to the canteen, because at the moment canteens got awful acoustic environment, and by everyone putting their coats up, there's more people, there's going to be more reverberations. And by having this piece of design, we'll actually dampen those reverberations and we'll have a much better acoustic climate in the canteen. So please don't buy new materials. Have a think about whether you can find it in the bins, and hopefully it'll produce something beautiful as this going forward in your design. Thank you very much.
How was the material swap?
Pardon?
How did the material swap go?
It's in progress. I mean, we've organised Material Arcade. We've thrown a lot of, actually we had to throw a lot of things which are too little to reuse. But it's in progress. Think about Material Arcade. I don't want to have any particular swap days because I believe it's constant. Okay. That's what I see Material Arcade as. So there we go.
Would anyone like to comment?
Does anyone use this, or does anybody do this already? Or is this something totally brand new?
We don't hang coats up, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
And is everybody already using recycled material in their modelling and everything?
I think for STD we don't do much models, so we haven't done a lot of models, but
have you got any tips for selecting and using materials for those that aren't familiar with it? So how do you know? What's a good way of going about?
How do we know? Excellent. Right, so I work in the workshop, and most of the time people come to me and say, where do I buy this? And I say, no, please, go a little bit further, and we've got a fantastic selection of wood already in place. So I guess it's just a mentality change. Like, we do have a lot of good scraps from Hope Park because people regularly bring stuff over as well, like large timber blocks. So maybe it's something that could be delivered on the school by email. Personally, I would like tutors from all the programs to tell us to the, not just us in the Material Arcade unit, but across all programs and units, maybe that should be the starting point. So it should be academically imposed without it becoming too autocratic. But yeah, it's a mentality change. We definitely have resource. And also, if you look at these, they're quite peculiar shapes. And I would imagine some people are going to think, oh, let's 3D print them instead. But no, actually, if we show the variety of tools that we do have in the workshop, then perhaps people will understand that we can make it with our hands instead of 3D printing or outsourcing them from elsewhere. So I guess, mentality change, but also knowing the variety of tools we have could help.
thank you. It looks amazing. It's super.
It's not just me. It's
all of you. Yeah, congratulations. I was wondering, what's the process? Even if we think about modeling, when we model in the future, do you think the materials that we find might impact the design, or because sometimes it's the thing of starting from scratch or with a new material, it's kind of like you have the idea and you know how to build it, but when you find a new material or find something new, I'm thinking also that might even impact the design from first. It's like, okay, what do I design? What do I do after I find the material? Have you guys experienced that, or did you have in mind, or you first see the material and then that impacts?
Your concern resonates with my concern greatly.
Okay. Do you wanna? Yeah.
Yes, I guess I can speak for you. Actually, no, I'm happy with that.
It's better for the recording.
Better for the recording. Okay, wonderful. During the round table that was held here a few weeks ago, I've asked a similar kind of question, and the answer I received is that please see buildings as quarries of raw material. So if you look at the demolition side, there are ways of responsibly demolishing something with the help of augmented reality, or with the help of sort of sonars, understanding what you have there. And once you know all the pieces of material that you can salvage, only then you start designing. So no more it starts with sketching on paper, abstract shapes. It only starts when you know the amount of material that you have. Essentially, it could be argued that we've built enough of building material, and we're only going to be reconfiguring those materials into new spatial designs. But it's a scary thought that we'll never have to design something from scratch again. Is that kind of along the lines? Yeah. Yeah. I'm just afraid not to standardize building materials so much that all our architecture looks like Lego. Potentially. So there we go.
There's a question.
Yes, James.
Thanks, Nazar. Just to reinforce what you're saying, with at least two practical tips about model making, and this has come from the heritage of Diploma 18 working with Material Arcade. The first is screw, don't glue. So, everyone talks about dismountable buildings. Of course, we should have the same mentality when building models as well. And last year, during Climate Week, we had a model dismantling workshop, and everyone from Diploma 18 and a few other students spent a whole morning meticulously taking apart abandoned models, because every generation that comes through the AA, they labor over these models with a lot of sweat and tears and love, and then they just get abandoned because, surprise, surprise, they're too big to take home to your tiny apartment. So think about the next life of your model. Think about how other people can use the material after you. Another conundrum we face in Material Arcade, which by the way is at number 38 on the top floor. Our doors are open almost all the time. And basically students come up, and they come up, I think, first looking for materials before. They don't really know what they want to do, but they are starting with the materials more and more. But the dilemma around cutting or not cutting. As soon as you cut a large piece of material, you've determined its future, or you've curtailed it a lot. So we try not to cut at all unless it's absolutely necessary for storage. So thinking carefully before you cut something in half, because then you usually cut its value in half as well. I don't know if anyone else can think of practical reusable model making tips, or the dilemmas of Material Arcade. Yeah.
There's a constant dilemma about compromising design wishes and practicality. As you say, if you've cutting anything or lathing anything, it's making it more custom, which means it'll be less desired by someone else, perhaps. So I'm looking at this as all very custom, but if we're talking about columns which were lathed in a specific way, they might not be wanted anymore as such. So, to give a piece of material best longevity, it needs to be as uncustomized, as personalized as possible, which is hard because then we'll start compromising on what we desire ourselves design-wise, I think. So there we go. It's a bit like in completely irrelevant to architecture, but on the market of retro football shirts, a shirt without a name will be resold better than with a name, which means that it's been customized, which means that less people want it. So it's about keeping it less custom, which is difficult if you need to. But then again, maybe there's some styles which are going to be desired even more, like Greek columns. They will be wanted having been worked on, you know? There we go.
Sorry, can I say one? Just occurred to me. Like Nazar and Diploma team, I think your design speaks to the issues raised in the previous presentation about adapting behavior. So it's not necessarily about the climate in terms of temperature, but we can impact the acoustic climate really easily in this really lo-fi way, simply by hanging up our coats rather than keeping them on. So I think that's weirdly empowering, and in the same way Material Arcade is, because it's so immediate, at least the feeling of using something that already exists rather than sourcing a virgin material. And yeah, you don't always remain in the abstract, in statistics and carbon counting regimes. You actually have the sense that you're doing something already, and that's really important as well. So that's another little advert for Material Arcade.
Please come to the workshops. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. And just one last comment. There is a much broader implication for what I think is a wholly admirable attitude of Material Arcade. It's been calculated that if it's predicted that the world population will be somewhere between 9 and 10 billion in 50 years, and there isn't enough physical building material in the world that can supply and build all of the new properties that would be needed for that. So reuse of existing buildings, either by, as you suggested, categorizing all the materials and then taking them apart, reprogramming, like this was a domestic house once, so designing spaces that are more generic, not as I was taught, that you know everything about the program and you design every single space to exactly match a piece of program, but designing your spatial ideas being capable of reuse is very important. So I think the Material Arcade attitude and program can be extended into the way we think about urban spaces, about building typologies and public spaces. Yeah, it's another little plug for Material Arcade. Okay, thank you. We have a short while before the next presentation, which is DIP 11 at 3 o'clock, which I think is just about time to race upstairs and get a coffee and come back. And please do come back. Thank you.